Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Comedy Defect Podcast. My name's Winter. I'm the host of the show. This is episode 66. I recorded this it must be about a year ago, with the wonderful Lynne Ruth Miller. And she is probably one of the oldest comedians, maybe the oldest comedian alive, still gigging. And she is very funny. She's great. We talk about her act. We also talk about how she was gigging with Amy Schumer and some wonderful little life lessons, little life nuggets, little things to just help you get through maybe the day or whatever job you're kind of doing. There's some little comedy tips in there as well. She was on Britain's Got Talent and Simon Cowell gave her some advice, and we talk about that too. And it was weird. It's weird when you're talking to someone and you're connecting with the person, and then they start mentioning names that you are. Basically what happened was she mentioned a name that I'm about to have on this podcast as well. And I was like, oh, that's a bit of a coincidence. I don't know if you believe in synchronicity or something like that, but things happen in an order depending on what you do in life. It's sort of like a butterfly effect type thing. I don't necessarily subscribe to it, but it was a massive coincidence. They mentioned this person and they are the next person that's going to be on this podcast randomly. Lynne Ruth Miller did not know that. And there was a moment in the podcast, I don't know if you might be able to tell, when Lynn is mentioning somebody or a place, and I managed to just bingo it straight out of the air. Boom, I've got that. And I was like, you can hear in my voice, I was very pleased with myself. Got it first time as well. It's nice when those things happen. I love it. But I had a lot of fun talking to Lynn. She's an accomplished author. She was a journalist and she writes a blog. She's doing loads of stuff. She's an artist. She does loads of things. She just loves life. She's a massive animal lover as well. And I just got talking to her. It was just wonderful to talk to her for about an hour and 15 minutes. I didn't have to ask her many questions. She was really forthcoming with everything, very open. It was so fun to talk to her. And I could have talked to her for a lot longer, but she had to go. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is episode 66. I'm not really going to talk much about me, this intro, because it's quite a long one anyway, and I'm going to save that for another podcast. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Lynne Ruth Miller, comedian. I think she's 86 now. She's absolutely hilarious. If you ever see her on a bill somewhere, go and see her live. She's absolutely lovely and very funny. So this is episode 66 with Lynne Ruth Miller. Enjoy. Lynne Ruth Miller, welcome to the Comedy Defect. Thank you for having me in your place. Much. And how are you?
I'm fine. I just got back from Dublin. I'm on my way to Germany. And the exciting thing about all this is that I'm going to be teaching a class in Frankfurt, and he's got 18 students. In contrast to that, I'm also supposed to be teaching a class on Sunday, which JW3 neglected to inform me what time it was. I thought that was nice. And nobody signed up.
Oh.
So, nobody. I have done nothing to promote it since I had it at the wrong time. Right. I thought it was at noon. Turns out it's 4, which is better for me. Nobody signed up. And in Frankfurt, he had 18 sign-ups right away.
So where are you from then?
I'm actually from Toledo, Ohio. Right. If you remember MASH, Slinger or something, was that his name? Slinger?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know it that well, but I know of it, yeah, for sure.
The stupid one.
Yeah, right.
He was from Toledo, too.
Okay.
Yeah, Toledo is awful. But I spent the last 30 years in San Francisco. Since 1988, which is almost the last 30 years, I've been coming to the Edinburgh Festival. That's how this whole thing began. Because I was a punter at the Edinburgh Festival for maybe 2 or 3 years. And then I have a master's degree in journalism. So I became a reviewer. And anybody that knows the Edinburgh Festival, Brian McMaster, who was the head of the whole thing, was one of my buddies. And I used to say, do you know who I am? He said, yes, I know who you are. You're that American with a loud voice. He didn't say that, but I said, yeah, he's lovely. I knew Charles McCarris. He conducts St. Martin's in the Field. It was very exciting for me. But anyway, so I started actually doing comedy at the festival in 2005. But I had started comedy in 2003. Right. And that was when I was 70. And now it's my profession. Now I work at it. I'm a journalist. And I've written books. I've written 11 novels, and I have, I think, something like 7 nonfiction books. And I'm in anthologies. I'm in a lot of anthologies.
What are your books about?
Well, they're fiction. One is about anorexia, because I had it.
Right.
Another is a late bloomer, because I am. And then the other ones haven't been published. It's funny, novelists, I was listening to Ian McEwan. In Beijing, believe it or not, they're doing a book talk, and it's Ian McEwan, which is one of my favorite. I read whatever I can by him. And he was saying the novel is the last bastion of being able to get inside another person's head and actually living vicariously, living that portion of his life that the novel is about. And I said, because I was in a thing, I don't believe that that's a major selling point anymore. With Facebook and Instagram and Skype, and it's more me. It's more about me. We're not interested in getting into the other person's psyche, the other person's conflicts. One of the most beautiful books, and I probably have the title wrong, I think it's about a child or something like that. It's about this man that goes shopping, and when he looks, his little kid is gone, and she's been stolen. And the whole novel is just about his coming to terms with this twist of fate that just destroyed him. So you don't get that. So I've written a lot of books, and they're all reflective of the way I was thinking at that time. And I was writing them when I was in my 50s and my 60s, right around 55 to 65. I spent 10 years writing novels. And then my other books I'm in a lot of anthologies, just arbitrary things, being a single woman, being a comedian. One of the books that I think I'm in that book, or it's about being childless. I have no children, and women often, that's in this blog that was just in there. Women often, when they get to be 40 and 50, if they have no children, they think, I missed something. Yeah, what you missed is a cracked pelvis and a sore vagina, but it's up to them. What they want, that's what they're about. But the two that are out is the one about the eating disorder and the one about being a late bloomer. And then I have books of short stories. So I promote those books. When you write the books, you promote them. And after I finished trying to sell the books, and most of my sales, whenever I tell this, I always forget to say this, I've sold thousands of books. And the first book alone paid for everything. But mostly online or word of mouth. So when I was doing these book signing things, nobody was ever buying anything. And after I finished the little speech and the little reading, I would tell jokes. And they were, Logan Murray finally gave me the name for them. They were third-person jokes. A man walks into a bar, that kind. And everybody loved it. They never bought any books, but they kept asking for more. So I was surfing the net because by that time you could. You have to realize I started all this when you couldn't surf the net. When I wrote the first novel, I did it on floppy disks. It was on an Apple IIc, floppy disk. But anyway, so by that time you could surf the net. I was looking for new jokes. And I saw a thing called, we were talking about this, San Francisco Comedy College. And I frankly don't believe you can teach anyone to be funny. You can teach them mic technique. You can teach them, I guess, the rule of three. You can't teach them the surprise thing because that comes naturally. So I thought, remember, I'm a journalist with a master's degree in journalism from one of the top universities in America. I mean, to me, it's the top university. It's Stanford University. Right. So I think, when I went there, I thought, I will get a job. And I never, ever got a job at a newspaper, ever. I've always been freelance. So I'm looking and I'm saying, San Francisco Comedy College, that's a ripoff. I'm going to expose them, and this is going to be my big journalistic breakthrough. So I called the guy, and his name was Curtis Matthews, and I liked him a lot. And I said to him, I would like to take your class. And he called back, and he just heard my voice. And he called back, and he said, I just love small Jewish women. You got it, Buster. Went there, and I did the class. And to be fair, when I walked in, I made some kind of smart remark, and he said, I can't teach you anything. But I took the class, and it felt more like consciousness raising. I didn't feel that he sharpened anybody's sense of funny. I write about that, by the way, in the blog. I think that the Irish, because you're Irish, I think they have a very particular kind of comedy. They're very funny. And I think that Irish women are unbelievably funny. What is it, Ashley B?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't beat her. Eleanor Tiernan.
Eleanor Tiernan, yeah. And
oh, my God.
Niamh Marin's very good as well.
Who?
Niamh Marin. You know Niamh Marin?
I don't know her.
I think she's from Cork as well, I think.
But those two women can get up at Tiff Stevenson's new material thing. Brand new material, and it's just funny. I can't do that. It takes me forever to make something funny. So when I took it, at the end, there was a final exam. And for all stand-up comedy things, the final exam, you perform. And I've been a college professor, so getting up in front of an audience was not a problem. What to do with the mic was a problem, because I would be, the mic would be over here and I'd be talking over here. So when I got up there, because the other 8 or 9, they were 18 years old, they had nothing to say. And then I got up there and I just did a set. Because I was the only one that did a set. I completely ripped up the room. They were so happy. Because they all went there to support their friends, and it was a quiet night. And then I got up there and I made them laugh, but it was just only because I had material. It was not because I was that funny. The thing that I loved is some kid came up and said, "Would you sign my ticket?" And I thought, oh my God, he loves me. And I didn't have to cook him dinner. Didn't have to change the sheets. I'm doing this again. And remember, I'm 70 years old at this point. I have a pension. I taught school. I have a pension. I'm retired in the States. That would be something that would be different here, because people wouldn't think of it this way. I was driving. I drive everywhere. This is a big adjustment for me here. So what else do I do at night? I'm not afraid of the dark like every other old person I've ever met. I got in the car and I went and I did free open mics, and I did it for 2 years. I never even expected to get paid. I just did it. I think the first time I ever actually made any money was when I did the Edinburgh Festival in 2003, and that was August of 2003. It was called Weapons of Laugh Destruction.
Right. Was that an hour show, or?
No, it wasn't just me. It was a bunch of American comics. I called up Hartley Kemp, and I absolutely love him. And I said, how would you like comedy from San Francisco? And he's thinking Robin Williams, Phyllis Diller, and he got people that were even more inexperienced than I was. They couldn't tell a joke. It was a terrible show.
You only do 20 minutes each, that usual three-hander?
There were 4 of us. So how much would it have been? 15?
15 or something each. Yeah, great.
And I ended it with a striptease. Because that year was the year of the burlesque.
Right.
And I sing a song, it's by Johnny Mercer, and it's called There's a Burlesque Theater, and it's a spoof about a burlesque. My favorite line in it is, take her out when it's over. She's a peach when she's dressed. I love that. In the song, she's taken off all her clothes. So I ended with that. I would do comedy in the beginning, and then I would come in for this 3-minute thing. I was invited everywhere, because at that time, the Odeon Theater was celebrating its 70th birthday. So I jumped out of a cake.
Yeah, great.
For the birthday. And so that was my first taste of success.
Yes, right.
And then I went on to try out for the paying gigs in San Francisco. And this was a natural progression. So I would try out for the paying gigs, but I was doing a bunch where I wasn't getting paid as well. I wanted to do it. And then I pursued it as you pursue any kind of a career. And I tried out for the Punchline, which is Live Nation, which is actually international. But they're the ones that run the paying comedy clubs in San Francisco. And I tried out. I did a couple free gigs for her. And then she had me actually audition as an opener. In America, the MC is the opener, as opposed to here. It's the lowest paying, and it is a set. You don't talk to them. They're not the set. The audience is the set. In America, their first remark, if they heard an MC here, is, I paid to hear comedy. I didn't pay to hear Joe Schmertz tell me that he's got a knee ache. I didn't pay to do that. British people just love it. They say, oh, God, that's funny. Yeah. So anyway, I tried out to be an opener, and Amy Schumer was headlining. And Amy Schumer said to Molly, the booker, who didn't much like me, she wasn't that enthusiastic. my jokes were about being old, and she didn't think it was funny. And Amy said to her, that woman is really funny. Mm-hmm. And then she said to me, when you have a punchline, if no one laughs, you wait. Mm. You know as well as I do, if no one laughs, you hurry on to the next one. You give them like 1 second. And I'm noticing that a lot in Dublin. There's a line I do that takes a little thought, but it's ridiculous. It's the lifeguard pulled me out of the pool. I talk about how wrinkled I am. The lifeguard pulled me out of the pool, and he said, oh, my God, you've been in here a long time, meaning I'm so wrinkled. I've been at the... It takes a little. Mm-hmm. And I noticed at this time I was doing comedy, I was Whelan's, and I was about to go into the next part, which is I'm so wrinkled. Mm-hmm. I took my bulldog to the vet and they gave me the shot. That's the next part of it. But I realized, wait, it took them a while to figure out that I was water soaked. Mm-hmm. And the other one, there's another one that I do that is, when I talk about how you have lapses, another one that if I wait, I'll get a laugh. I talk about how you have lapses, and I say, there I was in my fuzzy, and this is the setup. As you well know, the setup isn't when they're supposed to laugh, but it's funny. There I was in my fuzzy bunny slippers and my chin strap. That means I was naked. I'll never forget, I think, where they got it right away, but usually I have to wait. Because they have to sort of absorb. If I'm in my fuzzy bunny, the chin strap is what people used to wear to get rid of a double chin, and you just have to imagine it. You have to know anything with my chin strap. I'm naked, and then I go on to the next one. It makes the punchline a lot funnier, but you really don't need to absorb that. So when I say it, I very often go right into the punchline. Someday when I was doing this comedy at Whelan's, I waited, and by God, they got it. Takes a little because they're absorbing it. Remember, they're laughing, at least when I do it, thank God, through the beginning of your setup. I try to ride the laughter, but if you wait too long, the people that aren't laughing, because there are always, you think, oh, everybody's laughing. No, they're not. There's some that aren't. Because one of the things that I don't think other comedians realize this, because I've heard it all the time, well, it was a bad audience. Your job is to make them laugh. You were there when we did that comedy gig, but an awful lot of comedians aren't. I always go to the beginning of every comedy show. I go to the beginning of every comedy show because I want to see what's making those people laugh. And if they're super conservative, I don't really change that much, but I sort of get a sense.
It's the feeling of the room, isn't it? You just absorb the feeling. Okay, right, this is what's happened earlier in the gig, and then you can go, okay, can I play with this? Can I use this? Can I just acknowledge this? Can it be a button for later on if I need to? That sort of thing. Yeah, I like to do that.
You also you'll know what who some of the people are.
Exactly, names.
Like when I was doing the Whelan comedy, there was a couple that had been married for 16 years. They had met when they were 16, so they were like in their 30s. And I knew about that so that I could make jokes about relationships and then go to them and say, you know what I'm talking about, or doesn't apply to you, or this kind of thing. Because I had listened, because I knew. I don't change it that much.
So you can add in a little sides here just to keep it ticking over, isn't it? That's what it is.
Just keeping yourself in the moment. Because that's the whole thing, being in the moment. And I have discovered in the last 5 years that jokes that were just okay really go over now. And the reason they do is because this is the one thing Logan Murray says that I think is right, but it's not teaching anything. The longer you do it, the better you get at doing it. And what he means is, the longer you do it, the more it sounds like conversation. And my favorite anecdote with that is, I was doing comedy. What was the kid's last name? His first name is Brendan. And I was doing comedy. We were in the San Francisco International Comedy Competition. I beat him. I beat him because he was just beginning. And he wasn't even in the finals. He didn't get anywhere. This is 2 or 3 years later. He really worked on himself, and he was really funny. And he perfected this thing where he's doing memorized material, but it sounds like he's just chatting to you. So I brought my darling friend Alan, who is a psychiatrist, who is interested in doing comedy. He likes to tell funny stories about what these patients do because it's outrageous what they do. I'm bringing him to this club, and it's called Melt. That was the name of the club, Melt. And it was run by a girl from... there's an island, of course, British Isles is an island, because it's not Cornwall, but it's something like that. It's an island.
Isle of Wight.
Yes.
Ah, great, yeah.
The guy that was running it was a guy from Brighton. So Brendan gets up to do his comedy, and he's got it down. I mean, I very rarely see anyone that improves that much in that short of time, but he really just had it nailed. And he gets up and he's doing comedy, and my friend Alan is answering him. No, leave him alone. He's doing comedy because it's memorized. It's word for word. I could probably... And my friend Alan is answering him. And he's carrying it off really well. He's nodding and going on. And then Alan cannot bear it anymore. And remember, he's a psychiatrist and he's used to being in charge. He gets up and takes the microphone from Brendan and tells him what he thinks about what Brendan is saying. And they threw him out of the club. Oh, no. And my friend Alan said, what did I do? Because he didn't get that this guy wasn't talking to him. He was doing a memorized set, and he just didn't get it.
It was so good that he just
good.
It was talking to him personally. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's what he does. He's discussing this with me.
That's what
and this guy's a psychiatrist, so he can detect anything that's false.
Amazing.
Answering him back. Brendan was really very nice, but Alan was thrown out of the club and told he can't come back. and he still remembers it because he still wants to be a stand-up comedian, and he's... I think he can do it. I think anyone can. Do you know Chris Kent?
Yes, I do.
Of course you do.
I gigged with him. I started when he was starting in Cork years ago, but then I didn't continue.
When he was starting, was he as funny as he is now?
No.
Because he's got the same problem I have, but he solved it faster. Yeah. I'm a storyteller. I'm not a comedian. I am a comedian, but my stories are funny. But Chris has got the stories down. He's absolutely perfect. Alan is a storyteller. I think he can because his stories are about his patients. I think he can get it right. I tried my stories. They were probably like what Chris's were in the beginning. But instead of sticking to those stories, I changed the routine. I do set-up punch. I do an old-fashioned kind of comedy. Well, you heard it. I do an old-fashioned... Were you there? You were there.
Yes, I was there. So yeah, it was great. It was great. Really enjoyed it.
I do an old-fashioned kind of comedy. I do set-up punch. Yeah. Set-up punch. That's what I do. And the difference between the way I do it and the way somebody like... who's the guy that says, I get no respect? Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, yes. Yeah, great.
The Jewish comedians. They'll skip from topic to topic. You saw what I do. I have sections. I talk about women. And I also have sections that follow. I talk about women, then I talk about tattoos. And I've been forgetting the one about our council. But they're in sections. Because you have 5 minutes, you can only do one section. You have 10 minutes, you can do... But that comes with doing it. I can never get over these people that don't have to be timed. I have to do 10 minutes. All right, they get up there, they do 10 minutes, and they sit down. Not me. I have to do... I don't know when 10 minutes is. You go like this, and I'll say, already? Yeah. Or... Not yet. Yeah. Depending on the audience. That's how it happens. So more questions.
So what do you? I mean, I'm looking around your flat here. You're very creative. You're a journalist. I mean, you're doing everything. You obviously you have a piano in the corner. You got all your grades and everything.
Not well.
Okay. No, I'm learning to play the piano as well at the moment. Is it just like? So what do you do? What is it that your go-to then, Lynn? When you
write.
You write straight away.
But I don't write comedy. Email has destroyed me. Oh. I write, and I also am my own agent. So I work, for example, as soon as you leave, before I go out for dinner, if I can, I have to confirm my Germany gigs to make sure that I am picked up at the airport and that I have a place to stay. I have to confirm my January gigs because they are in Southeast Asia. So I want to make sure I am picked up at the airport and that my dates are exactly right. And then I have to work on getting lodging for the Amsterdam one. Is it just one night?
What gig are you doing in Amsterdam?
The one on the 13th is in Bonn. In April, I'm doing Mesrab and then I'm doing Nutty Anita, I think a week later. So I'm coming back and forth. One of the hardest things for me to get used to, because I'm from America, is that you can do these gigs in one day and just come back. It's a flight.
Yeah.
And as long as the flight doesn't get completely messed up and you don't run into, which I'm worried about because I'm in the middle of winter in Germany. But if everything goes as planned, I come home from Bonn in the morning and go to Bracknell Comedy that night. And then the next day I go to Birmingham.
What's the hardest thing you find about comedy? Like, what is the thing? Do you find anything particularly irksome to you?
What do you mean the hardest?
Like, the most difficult thing that you find with comedy?
Getting new material that works.
Right.
Because you have to try it out. And you have to, I don't like failing. You have to fail to make it work. And I do David Hardcastle's Monday night. I do Tiff Stevenson if I can ever find a time. When I do Top Secret, I don't do new material. It's a new material night, but I don't do new material. Because he pays me, and if I'm getting paid, I want to earn it. You want to give him the best show you can, right? You've got a great voice. Do you do voiceovers as well, or anything like that? No, I've tried, but I haven't been able to get it. You don't have the glass walls I do, and you don't realize it. You're the right age and you're the right color. Men have an easier time when they're older than women. I am a completely invisible entity. I can send out 35 emails, and the minute they see 85, they're done. But my shtick is about being 85. All I have to do is just, I send a link. I'm 85. I start everything with my age. I'm invisible. They don't bother answering. I go on that Facebook comedy thing, and I've sent out several. And those people would have been fucking lucky to get me because they were the really low-level gigs. And they got people that weren't as funny, and I would take the same amount of pay. Because, I'll do something for 20 or 30. It doesn't bother me. My transportation is free. If it's in the city. So it's very difficult with that attitude towards your age. But you just so you think they would rely on your clip and your experience? No, because they see the clip and they don't see the chemistry. The truth is, I'm not as funny as my audience reaction. I'm just not. The idea that I'm going to get up there and I'm going to talk about teabagging is absolutely just throws them. I've never done it. I would never do it. It makes me ill. But I know about it. I say that word and they think, oh! And to them, you laughed. It's so funny. I'm just talking about the difference in terminology. I'm not, it's like a Webster's dictionary. I'm discussing. I'm not discussing the act. I don't even know I do know what it is, but it's the contrast, isn't it? It's coming out of, so that my jokes, which they don't see when they watch a tape, they don't see that chemistry. If you ever see me, it happened at Paul's gig. Thank God. I was so afraid it wouldn't. And it only did because Kwan got up first, and because he was even more out of the box than I am. He doesn't talk English very well. And he's gay, and that was a very straight crowd. It was very straight. And he's flamboyantly gay, and he's funny. I think he's funny. He is. That's why I was a success, because he had them laughing at outrageous things when Outrageous Me got up there. That's why I was such a success. Yeah. But ordinarily, it's audiences like Top Secret and Angel. I just can't do anything wrong there. I keep thinking, no, this time it won't make it. It always does. And it's young people hearing their grandmother say words they never thought she knew. That's all. And that isn't how I should be judged. Simon Cowell, I was in Britain's Got Talent, and Simon Cowell did not like me. And Simon Cowell was right. Sorry, he was right. They gave me 2 minutes. I did 2 minutes of, you could anticipate the punchline on every setup. It was about being old. It was about being forgetful. It was cliched. I didn't have time to build up to something unusual. I wanted to hit them with funny stuff. It was funny. The audience loved it. David Williams loved it. Those 2 women, cute little women, they loved it. He was smart enough to see it's just cliche. There was nothing new. He was right. If you don't judge me, have you ever done Comedy in the Dark? No. That's where they can't see you. And that's the acid test for me. My comedy has to be as funny as yours, as Paul's, as Kwan. that funny, not because I'm old. The quality of the material that I am giving you has to be that funny. However, the truth is that as a comedian, it's your persona as well. So that's part of what's funny about me.
You see, I find that sometimes that we're talking about how people perceive you, and you don't often have any control over what they feel about you as soon as they see you.
My friend Brett Lilligard talks about that. He always, I used to do this, but then they stopped me and said, don't do it. I always say something nice about the comedians that went on before me. But then they stopped me, somebody who I thought knew their business here, and they said, we don't do that here, so I don't do it anymore. But you've got to say something that endears you to the audience. Who was it? Oh, Connor. We won't say his last name, so there's me.
Connor Drum, he's been on this podcast already. Yeah.
Oh, he's already gone.
Yeah.
He doesn't endear you. It's harder for him to get a laugh because he's an arrogant young man. His material was excellent. His material was absolutely marvelous. And I wrote him, and I mean, I pretty much got a thing that says, thank you, I'm glad you realized.
Right.
And there was absolutely nothing about the fact that I am as good as he is, because I am as good as he is. I wasn't as good as the one before, and that goes right back to what we're talking about. His name is Robbie. Is it?
Bonham?
Yes.
Right.
And the reason that man was funnier than both of us is because of his Irishness. It's in that blog. I don't know whether John might have cut it out, but it's in that blog. He is so funny because he's so Irish. Joan Rivers, despite the fact that she probably would be rolling in her grave if she is exceptionally Jewish. There's a joke she does. Remember, her husband's name is Edgar, and he committed suicide. And my favorite, this is so Jewish, she goes to a restaurant. She says, if Edgar were alive today and saw these prices, he'd kill himself again. That's Jewish. There's a guy named Ethan Hirschenfeld or something, who is absolutely marvelous, but he comes to Glasgow and does Jewish jokes, and he doesn't understand why they don't go. And one of them is, in a Jewish household, you want your kid to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a violinist. That's what you want, and it's so ingrained in all of us, we don't have to explain it. And if you got a daughter, you want her to marry a doctor, or you want her to get married. She's not supposed to earn a living. So he gets up there, Ethan, and he says, so I got a job as a taxi driver. How could I tell my mother? That is unbelievably funny to a Jewish audience, not to somebody in Glasgow. They think, oh, that's great. Most of ours are just sitting on the street with a cup and a dog. He got a taxi. That's fine. He's making money.
He's got a car, man.
That's so funny. He's ready for it. They're all saying, and everybody's waiting, and nobody's going to laugh. Nobody's going to laugh at all. And I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I wish to hell he would get some of that, because it's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. To the people in Glasgow, being a taxi driver is a great thing. And he said, so how can I tell my mother, which is so funny, in a Jewish audience? Robbie's Irish humor is funny to everyone. And I can't explain what it is. I wrote about it in the blog. I have a friend whose name is Carla Clay. She's black. This is a joke, and it's not a joke at all. But when she says it, it's the funniest thing I've ever heard. She's black, and she's really black. I mean, she looks like she just came out of the middle of Africa. And she says, I work at the Lost and Found at San Francisco airport. And people, she said, are so stupid. This woman came up to me. I stand under a sign that says Lost and Found. And this woman came up to me and said, is this the Lost and Found? Well, it's her. That brings down the house. That's really not that funny. And my friend Andre, the Wonder Woman, who is the funniest black woman in the world, she says, and this is also, you just laugh, you just can't stop, and it's not that funny. She said, when you give comedy to white, she's black, she says, when you give comedy to white people, they just don't laugh. They don't like it. If you do comedy for black people and they don't like it, they follow you out to the parking lot. I'm telling you, that brings down the house. And it's just that. It's the way she says it. It's the way rolls, and she doesn't even roll her eyes. Carla rolls her eyes. Carla gives you the black look. But Andrea doesn't even do that. And it just brings down the house. And it's really not that funny at all. I can do Jewish things like that to a Jewish audience, but my audiences are not Jewish. One of my favorite things that I can do, although I think this is also Irish, you come to a Jewish woman's home at any time of the day or night. You walk up to the front door, she answers the door, and she says to you, have you eaten? And everybody, that's it. The Irish mammy does the same thing. Have you eaten? Then she turns to whoever else is in the house and says, I don't have a thing in the house. Then she goes to the refrigerator and opens up, and it's got enough food to feed the Armenian army. She feeds you a dinner that is so big nobody can finish it, including the 10 extra guests. As you haul the food back out, she looks at whoever's in the house and she says, no one ate a thing. And that is, but it works with an Irish audience too. That is Jewish, that's it. And you'd say that to somebody, say, from Sweden or English. You're damn lucky if you get a cup of tea from somebody from England. You come into a Jewish, and I mean, this can be stay for dinner, but it's 1 p.m. Well, stay. And they observe you too. I eat dinner at this German woman's home where she married an Italian. Italians are the same. And he cooks. And we'll sit there and be eating, and he'll have a plate that serving platter that nobody's done much with. And he'll just sort of push it to the middle of the table so you haven't eaten that.
Counting what you're eating, that's
you're
it.
Supposed to, did you notice that? That's there too, Doesn't say a word. And with me there, he doesn't understand what I'm saying anyway because he can only speak German and Italian. He's from Sardinia. But he'll do that. He'll just push the plate. You don't want seconds. He won't say anything. He'll just push it there. Because food is very important to every minority. Irish people went through that terrible famine. Jews were starved. That's why food is. Italians are the same way. Food is really important to them.
You've been performing for 15 years, right? And
it's coming on 16.
16 years, right? Okay.
Not yet, but it will be.
What was the date?
So April of this year, I will have finished 15 years, and I'll be on to my 16th.
Wow. You write about your life as it is now. And you find that, like, with your, because you talk about your books and, because you're talking about being 85. Yeah. So comedy and all your writing is very cathartic, I guess, for you, is it?
I think it must be. I've always been a humorist. When I look back on my life, I realize I probably always wanted to perform. I've had 3 television shows. I was on CBS with a children's show called The Little Playhouse, which was awful. I've never been paid for my television shows. Right. It was public service. I did that for a year and a half, 2 years, and then I got married again. So that stopped. And then when I was in Pacifica, I'm trying to think, when was 9/11? 2001?
2001, that's right.
Okay, from 2001 to 2006, I've been here 4 years, so 2014, 13 years. I had 2 TV programs on Pacifica's community television thing. One was What's Hot Between the Covers, which is a book review program. I'll never get a title as good as that. What's Hot Between the Covers? And people would say to me, so what's hot between the sheets? I said, no, it's not that kind of a book. It's a book review program. Anyway, and I interview people in the arts. And I had some really memorable stuff happen there. Because if I read a book, I would try to do an offshoot of it. And there's a book by Wally Lamb called This Much I Know Is True, about, they're not identical, they're fraternal twins, and their connection with each other. So I want to do a program about it, and the studio is, it's not as big as this room. So, I'm not realizing that when so I called up there's an organization, Mothers with Twins. So I called up and I said, can I have 2 or 3 mothers with the twins? I'm not realizing I'm not just getting 3 mothers, but I'm getting 2, 4, 6 more children. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 people in that tiny little studio. I really disrupted. It was terrible. They were all over the place. And I did a program about the ESP that twins have. Because they do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're fraternal twins, but boy, they know. They sense each other.
I've got 2 twin cousins. and one of them broke his leg, and I thought he broke his leg somewhere, and the other one started crying in class. He wasn't there with him. He was like out doing something with a hole and broke his leg, and he started crying in class. It's like
How old?
They were about maybe in there, I think maybe 11 or 12. Like that age.
He knew something had happened.
Yeah, then he had something happen to his brother. It's mad.
Yeah, they do.
Very strong connection.
It's gorgeous, and they're fraternal twins. They're not identical. Or
they are identical twins.
Identical twins. Yeah. Identical twins. It's scary. Yeah. Identical twins. You drop something in the kitchen here, and 3 miles away he'll flinch. Wow. Yeah, they are so connected. But you must see also. I am not a spiritual person. I'm an atheist. But you must see also the connection we have with one another.
Yeah.
I will innumerable times. I will be writing an email to someone as they are writing an email to me. So I'll send it, and then another thing will come back and say, how did that happen? We are connected as human beings. Yeah. And we're also, do you have pets?
Yes, I've got 2 dogs.
What kind?
I've got a husky and I've got a Labrador.
I was just with a Labrador, Borador, which is a border collie, and a Labrador. Except that they're nuts. This dog is so Labrador. And he's 9 months old. Yeah, boy, they have a lot of energy. And this dog is desperately in love with me. He's desperately in love with me. See, my little dog, this dog could knock me over. He's as big as I am. And his companion, you have to have 2 dogs. So do you live where you can have dogs?
Yeah, I live with my wife.
Children?
I've got 2 kids.
I believe in dogs for children. I think it's a terrible mistake not to have them.
Responsible for something else. And
no, not because of that. Because a little kid needs to have someone to talk to that doesn't talk back.
That's true, I guess.
And you maybe can talk to a cat. Yeah. It's not quite the same. My Michael was wonderful. But you maybe can talk to a cat. With a dog, it looks like they know what you're saying.
Yeah, they're listening intently, And
kid needs to have something they can talk to.
Your dog was called Michael.
No, my cat was Michael. My dog was David. And those dogs were Amy, Dorothy, and Donald.
Right. Yeah.
And now I see why. And then I never got a dog that was too big to wash in the sink.
That's a good idea.
Well, because it was just me. Idea. I didn't have.
That's great. I prefer that, to be fair. Just pick them up and take them where you need to go.
You have to bathe them in a Labrador and a Husky. That's big dogs.
Yeah, that's right.
But you have a backyard.
You've got a small garden. We just have to take them to the field and let them run around.
Yeah.
That's it. But
do you live in London?
No, I live outside, about 25 miles outside.
That would be the only way.
Yeah, I don't think you can have a big dog in London.
It's wrong to coop them up.
That's it.
I've had, I think, over 30 dogs altogether. Wow. Well, sure.
Yeah.
I started, my first dog was David when I was 36. I got him because I was sent home to die from the hospital. I was terminally ill, and they sent me home to die, and I love this story. They sent me home to die, and my mother called me because she never believed I was really sick, my mother. I had a Jewish mother who was, what is it I say? I was born the day that Hitler came into power, which explains my mother. I've been sick for 6 months. I've been hospitalized. And I came home. They didn't dismiss me. And my mother, however, did not believe I was sick. So she called me and she said, while you were guilt. Jewish mothers can do guilt. She said, while you were gone. I was almost dead. She said, while you were gone, no one did my garden. So I am shit at gardens, but I was her maid. I will never understand why my mother decided to make me Cinderella. Immensely wealthy woman. She could have hired someone, but anyway, I was the one that did the dishes. I was the one that did all that. So I got in the car. Now this is directly after this diagnosis. I weighed. I don't know whether you know anything about pounds. You people know 55 pounds. And I thought I was fat. So I went out to do her garden, which is the equivalent of going from here to Brighton. I drove over there. I did her garden. She's a Jewish mother. She sent me home with food. I came home, and I pulled up behind a cement mixer, and I was driving a Valiant. And I now realize what happened. I didn't at the time. I was really sick, so I pulled up behind the cement mixer, and I didn't push down hard enough on the brake. Yeah. So I coasted into the cement mixer, and I remember thinking, "Thank God it's over," because that sickness it was not good. I did not feel well. And I thought, thank God it's over. And I remember I was so relieved. Then I'm lying there, pushed into the cement mixer. My head hit the steering wheel. I'm lying like this, and I'm thinking, I don't feel very dead. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Dead like this? So I thought, well, maybe I can open up the car door and see what's going on. I did. I got out of the car, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. If it hadn't been that someone told me I was going to die, I would have just sat up. It was just like that. But because I thought I was going to die, I stayed there, waiting, this is it. So when I got out of the car, I looked at the car, and in those days, when I was 36, that would have been in the very early 70s, 73 as a matter of fact. They were made of tin. And so when I hit the cement mixer, it was not a very hard hit at all. The cement mixer never even knew I hit him. But the front of the car was total. And I had a bloody nose. That was all I had because of the impact. And I thought to myself, and this is not a joke, this is really what I said. I said, well, you may not be much, but you're better than anything General Motors can make. Got in my car with its smashed front and decided to make myself well. That was when I was 36. It took me 10 years.
What was wrong with you?
I think I had a nervous breakdown. I think it was this. They think it was, what did they think was wrong with me? Just a severe case of osteoporosis, and something was wrong with my intestines, and they couldn't figure out what it was. What it was here. But I didn't know that at the time. I just thought, no, I'm going to get well because they're wrong. I believe, and all of you people who are already dead can tell me if I'm right, when you're that close to death. Because, they told me you won't last a week. That was when I was 36. I'm 85. All right, so I decided to get exercise, and I am not athletic in any way, which is another thing that's interesting about me. I was not a successful child. Kids played tag. They always got me. Yeah. And I always would trip and fall. I had scabs on my knees, and I would do things like everybody else would be playing, and I would be digging to get to China.
Right.
Very industrious. I'm going to get there. My mother said, come in for lunch. And I'm almost there.
Were you an only child then?
No, but I was, for 8 years I was. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I was going to get to China. Damn it. Leave me alone. I'm almost there. Just
busy.
Imagine. Yeah.
Ooh. On a mission.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I better make this hole a little bigger because I want to go down there. Yeah. No, it was that kind of thing. I was an absolute...
Sort of like a dreamer, sort of like a way with it.
Completely. While they were all playing tag, I was not a successful child. You ride bicycles. As soon as we get into two-wheelers, I couldn't do it. If you've never heard... I didn't do that comedy there, but I do comedy about it. Simply, I can't swim. My mother sent me to camp, for years, and I just can't swim because I'm terrified. You can't graduate high school unless you can swim. I figured out how to get out of it. I do a story. That's one of the stories I tried for comedy, and it didn't work. I do a story. I tricked the teacher. I told the teacher I was hemorrhaging. And I think the teacher probably had menstrual problems. So this is like a month and a half, and 2 months, and she said, still? Yeah. There's nothing wrong with me. And I ended up playing volleyball with a bunch of pregnant teenagers. Yeah, I didn't have to. Yeah. I got out of swimming. I can't swim. There's a progression of tests, and I think test 6 is you tread water. I was okay with that. And then you jump in. At that point, the swimming lessons continued for everyone else, and I stood and looked down at the water. I would not. I'm very, very... And kids like to do wild, adventuresome things. When I was young, we didn't have pot, but we had beer, and I never touched it. No way. I smoked. Remember, you had to be, in America, I think you had to be 21. And I'm talking about 14, 15, 16. Everybody drank, not me. I wouldn't. You don't.
Yeah.
Everybody had sex. Not me. You didn't. I tell a joke about that. Yeah. On the third date, you let them kiss you. Now on the third date, you let them fuck you, but it's a totally different thing there. Yeah. And then you ask them their name. You don't know who the hell they are. Right. That wasn't the way it was. I was very, very proper. But as I look back, we used to do, I call them entertainments, and it's very much like music hall. You got up and I used to do it in our backyard. I would take my mother's old clothes and I would dress up and my cousin and we would sell lemonade and some lemonade. And then we would sing songs, you're a grand old flag, like that. Yeah. We get all the neighbors to come. And I would perform with my cousin Jessica, and who is dead now. She's gone. Then when I went to college, we did entertainments. I was a little teapot. I had a big teapot. I was teapot short and stout. There used to be an ad for your Maidenform Bra called I dreamed I was a pirate in my Maidenform Bra. And I forget what I did, but I dreamed I was in my Maidenform, and I did that. So I was always in the entertainments, and I wrote them. In every single thing I've ever done, I wrote it. Yeah. So I was not like I was in a play, although I was in a play too. I was my dentist lover, and first act, first scene, he kissed me, and then he locked me in a closet. At the end of the third act, they exposed him, and I emerged. All my kids, I taught kindergarten, I taught 7-year-olds. They all came to watch me.
Oh, yeah?
And they went, there's Miss Miller. And then, where'd she go? And then at the end of the third act, they're all singing, here she is again. Oh! And then the next day in school, we saw you. You were wonderful.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, that's great.
Shoved me in the thing.
Yeah.
I think what happened is, I don't think he shoved me in. I think he kissed me, and then someone else shoved me in, because I think I kissed him at the end, too. My dentist. That was who it was. But I love things like that. I love doing things like that. But I never thought of myself as a professional. I thought of myself as a writer, because I just always wrote. Yeah. And when I was 10, I won a prize. Yeah. I wrote a poem called The Lamplighter.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no. Not that one.
No, okay, I was thinking, I think I'm, oh, great,
oh,
okay.
No, nobody ever saw it. It was trash.
Okay.
10, I got a silver dollar. And from then on, I knew my destiny. yeah. 10. I knew my destiny.
Writer straight away.
I'm going to be a writer. And one of the things I did, always writing, when I finally got well, I got a job in Oklahoma City. In Oklahoma City, it's a pit. The stockyards are in the middle of the city, and it's very windy. So if you live anywhere in Oklahoma City, and it's a big city, you open your windows, it smells like cow shit.
Okay.
So it's
like West Cork, where I'm from.
It's awful. Yeah. So I was thinking, I'm very negative here. Okay, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Other people say, well, you don't like it, you change jobs. But no, that's not what happened to me. I happened to be reading John Steinbeck's Travels with Charlie. That's about John Steinbeck. I'm not. But of course, I think I'm just as good as he is. You have to realize. I think I'm even better than Picasso, because you can recognize what I do. I've got this hubris inside. So I'm reading Travels with Charlie, and he got a travel trailer. Well, he got a motorhome and a poodle, Charlie, and traveled around the country and wrote this really interesting book. And I thought, I'm sitting in Oklahoma City breathing cow shit, and I'm thinking, yeah, I could do that. I had 2 dogs. I had 1 cat. I'm trying to think if I had 2. I definitely had 1 cat. Because Michael had died, so I had 2 cats. I had 1 cat. No, as a matter of fact, I had 2 because I got Sarah. So, all right, so 2 cats, 2 dogs. I could do it. But because I didn't have any money, I've never had any money. I have never. That's something else. You're going to see a lot of these comics that are doing very well. They seem to be doing well because they've got a lot of money, and they pay for promotion. You don't need, it takes you longer, but it doesn't. So anyway, so I didn't have very much money. So I couldn't afford a motorhome. But I got a thing called a fifth wheel. They transport horses in it. It sits in the bed of a truck, and I've seen them in Ireland. It sits in the bed of the truck because they transport horses. There's a little part that sits in the bed of the truck, and then the big part, the 24-foot part, is this. And horses are usually in it, but they also make them travel homes. Yeah. So I got one of those, and I got a GMC truck, and I had the 2 dogs and the 2 cats. And when we did the Southwest United States, and when I would drive down the highway, I was so little you couldn't see me. Yeah. I was, because it's a GMC truck. It's huge.
Yeah, big trucks.
Yeah, you can't see me. I was looking through the steering wheel at the, and all they could see was this 1 cat looking out the window. It was Eileen looking out the window.
Yeah.
And they'd go, look at that, 24 feet of trailer. But my thinking was, I can do that.
Yeah.
He's a man. He's only got one dog. I've got two. Yeah. And I talked Reader's Digest into saying he would read what I wrote. He never said he would publish. I went all over the Southwest, and I wrote in my little typewriter on my travel trailer. So I did. So I always thought of myself as a writer. That's what I've always thought of myself as.
Have you written sitcoms as well? Have you?
No, I'm not that kind of a writer. Right. I write
stories and narrative and what you.
I had a column.
Experiences. Right.
I had a column. Well, while I was sick, I was writing columns, but not regularly, for the Jewish News and a magazine called the Impresario magazine, and Toledo Blade and the Toledo Blade. I was doing big articles for the Toledo Blade. And then in Oklahoma City, the job I got was writing. When I got to California, I moved to Pacifica, and a man named Chris Hunter had just gotten a job with the Pacifica. Pacifica's like Brighton. It's got its own newspaper, but it's really a suburb. Brighton would kill me if I said they were a suburb of London. Pacifica's really a suburb of San Francisco. But it's got its own newspaper. And this kid was Chris, he's not a kid anymore, he's in his 60s. He was promoted to feature editor. So he came, at that time I was writing novels, and he came to do an interview about this woman that's churning out novels that nobody's reading. And we really connected. And then he became the editor, and he called me up and said, I want to do something to sparkle up the paper. Would you like a column? And so I had a column in the Pacifica Tribune for, maybe 5-6 years. And then I started doing it just for holidays. So I have a lot of stories about Thanksgiving and Christmas and the Jewish holidays and Easter and stuff like that. And my columns were they always had a funny thing at the end.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And then I put those into a book. When I did Starving Hearts, that was the first novel I got published, and I published it. I got somebody to publish it, but he wanted me to sign a contract that gave him all the rights for 10 years. I was 68. I thought, no, by 10 years I'll be dead. I don't want that. 78. That was 7 years ago. So I published it myself, and I thought no one would read it. It had been refused by every major publisher in the United States and here for about 2-3 years. I sent it out.
Yeah.
And my friend from Pensacola, I sent her a galley copy. She read it and she said, this is good. So she said, how would you like to do a book tour? I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, you come to Pensacola, and then I've got relatives in New Orleans, and I've got relatives in Louisiana, South Carolina, wherever the hell it is. She said, I'll drive you around. I said, okay, I'll pay for the gas. We stayed with her relatives, and I did a book tour. And Starving Hearts, self-published, before people were self-publishing, paid for every other book I published. I made a fortune on that. So because that was what I thought I would always do, is just write.
What was the favourite piece of writing you've ever done? What was the thing you thought, that I can't write anything better than that? I don't want to make a... I love The Late Bloomer. You can get that online. On Amazon, and I love it. But I have 3 others that are not published, and I'm hoping to get them published before I die. But I've got to reread them to see if they're still pertinent. One is called Marigolds. I don't know whether you know this, but if you plant marigolds in the garden, they keep the bugs away. Oh, I know that.
So the whole thing is a joke, this one. Right. So she's a single mom. The mother, and she's very much patterned after my grandma. And she says, I named you Marigold, that keep the bugs away. And Marigold says she thinks that her father was a sailor because he left his mother for distant shores. He walked out on her is what he did. And she decides she wants to have a baby, but she doesn't want to get married because her mother never did. And she doesn't want to, I asked her, does she want to, I knew about IVF then. I said she wanted to, no, she wanted to have it just like her mama did. And what she does is she finds herself, and remember the Jewish thing, a doctor, a lawyer, a violinist. So this all takes place in San Francisco. She goes to the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, which in itself is a joke because it's nothing. And she hears this violinist whose name is Stradivarius. Do you know what Stradivarius is? It's a kind of violin.
Yeah.
Strati.
Incredibly expensive violin.
Yeah, Strati is his name. And she decides that he's the one. Yeah. And then I did something that was really very avant-garde. This was in, when was I writing this? This would have been in 1970-something, because I had stopped writing the novels by 1980. And I had her invite him to Tahoe and feed him marijuana brownies. You call it something else.
Yeah. No, you're right, brownies, same. Yeah.
Yeah, but nobody was doing that then.
Right. Yeah.
She just baked marijuana in
Space cakes, they call it sometimes as well, isn't it? That's right, yeah.
Marijuana brownie. Because he is so high. And of course I'm wrong, because when you're high, you're not energetic. You're more laid back, but I've got them having sex all over everything. So anyway, so they finally have sex on the grand piano, and Marigold says, "That made the baby," and that's it. But the thing I absolutely love is he passes out, and she puts him to sleep. And the next morning he comes down for breakfast, and she's cleaning up all the different, because when I described what they were doing, they're knocking over lamps and everything. It's I'm very good at writing about chaos. I love doing it. You didn't hear this comedy, but I do several comic things like that. I've got one about cooking dinner where I end up in the hospital. I'm very good at creating this terrible stuff. So anyway, so he comes down for breakfast and he says, I had the most amazing dreams last night. And she says it's the best line in the whole book. I'll bet you did.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then she has the baby. And then it was 1990, because then she forms a group called Women of the 90s, because they want to be independent, and they learn how to fix toilets and how to service a car. And the line is, we finally learned what 7 inches really is, what a male screw and a female screw is, and what 7 inches really looks like. And then she has the baby, and eventually they get together. But that's one of my favorite books. And she goes to this Conservatory of Music when she's pregnant, and she swears that the kid is singing. And then she takes her as a baby, and the baby starts to cry. And the usher says, "You have to leave, you're disturbing them." She says, "Can't you hear it singing?" It says, singing. And eventually they meet, and she has the other baby. And I think the other baby is a doctor. And she says, "How do you know?" Just because I can feel it, it's toe dancing. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I love that book. So that's the one I want to publish. When I was young, I had a really good friend named Lois Oaken, who was she looked like Pocahontas. And she was just the sweetest. I don't think we have this kind anymore. We have two like this, but this one was particularly innocuous, gentle little woman. Little, she's much shorter than I, which is hard to believe. It was as big as that wastebasket, which was really little. And she had these big dark eyes, and she was absolutely the most innocuous, quiet. We used to call her Little Loioka, and her son murdered her.
Oh, no. Oh.
So I wrote a book trying to figure out why any human being would want to murder this beautiful little person, just the most beautiful little person. And sadly, I don't have the article anymore, but there was an article in the paper. His name was David, and he murdered her with a butcher knife, with a kitchen knife. And it was called Stilled Laughter. And that's another one. And the reason I know that one's good is because I wrote it. But as I reread it, I get to the point where he's about to murder her. I wrote it, and I'm sitting there saying, no. And then I thought,
you're invested.
You stupid ass, all you have to do is just change it. You did it. And I said, no, don't. Because he's coming at her, and the little girl, because I concentrated on his sister seeing it. And so that's the other one I want to publish, but I probably won't, because it takes a lot to sell a book, and I'm trying to sell a comedian.
Yeah. Is there anyone you look up to, comedian-wise, alive? I mean, but like you kind of
Phyllis Diller.
Phyllis Diller.
She saw what she needed to do, and she did it. At a time when women... Joan Rivers I do too, but Joan Rivers was mean. She wasn't a nice person. But Phyllis Diller, I don't know if she was nice or not, but boy, she made it happen. Phyllis Diller. But I look up to anybody I believe that any human being can do any dream they've got if they're willing to put in the work. And I always quote, is it William David Thoreau, who said, build your castles in the air. There they are. That's the dream. That's where I want to go. And then start making the steps to get you to it. And what really happens is you build the castle in the air. You get about here and you think, I really don't like that castle. So you go over here. The castle's over there. And then maybe you get almost there and you think, that really stinks. I'm going to go over here. It's the journey. I've had, from the time I managed to get away from my parents and get away from Toledo, Ohio, from then on, I've had the best life, absolutely the best. And I have not had money. Every April in America, taxes go in on April 15th. I would look at my poverty level in California. Now, this changed in all the places I've been, but in California, poverty level for a single person was $21,000 a year. I was living on 14. And to give you some kind of perspective, I am living on that same amount, $14,000 a year. I don't even have that much. I have little. I think it's 12 something a year. Oh no, I'm doing fine. No tears for me. In Pleasanton, California, which is adjacent to where I lived, poverty is 130,000. I was living on 14. People say, "Yeah, I really know how to economize. I buy 30-day-old meat, and I don't care if I throw up. I live on 6 tablespoons of oats. I live really well. I take very good care of myself. I eat healthy food. I don't realize how picky I am until like last night. I went to a restaurant. There was nothing there because I won't eat red meat. I won't eat pork. If I come to your house, I'll eat it if you put it in front of me because it's just preference. I won't eat liver. I can't stand it. I won't eat anything that's salty or pickled. And I don't eat starchy things.
Right.
We just got rid of pasta. So there you have it. Yeah. Nothing.
Wow.
And I'm sitting and looking at this thing and think, oh my God.
Yeah.
Nothing on this menu except the tiramisu. I can do that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm very picky about food.
Very much.
Ever since I got out of the hospital. And I'm also picky about health. I get 8 hours sleep, and I walk. That's why I miss the dogs. I really miss the dogs.
It's good. It's good to connect with those animals when you're out with them. It's just it's an event. There you can see the joy in them.
Oh, don't you love it?
I absolutely love it.
You go into the dog. It's pouring rain out, thunder and lightning, and you take the leash and say, let's go. And you say, no, you really don't want to. We gotta. And then you get outside and they say, let's go back in. Oh
no, my ones.
No, yours are big.
They just I took because I was away for a couple of days there, and I came back and the wife hadn't walked them as much as as she could have done, and then I came back and I let them out in the field and they were like, I could see the joy in them. I was like, it's brilliant. It's wonderful.
I will never forget. I always kept my dogs on a leash because I can't run that fast. But I went to a winery and it was pretty much enclosed. And I let Donald, the little 5-pound poodle, off the leash. Never forget. Oh. So happy. Just ran with the little ears. Yeah. Oh, God. And you, unless you have a dog, you don't appreciate how gorgeous, how beautiful that is. And that's why I think it's very wrong that they don't allow dogs here. I understand it. Dogs bark. They allow a cat, but I'm not going to have a cat shitting in my bathroom.
Yeah, I know.
If I lived on the main floor, I might have a cat because I like cats, but not like dogs. They're just not like dogs.
No, it's not the same.
And the big dogs are like human. I mean, Luca, that's the Borador. He would knock me over, but the love is just, no, she's mine. And the tail would go bam, bam, bam. And you get the double whammy look, because I'm hungry.
Yeah.
If you don't let me out, I'm going to pee right on your shoe. Yeah.
Look into your soul.
Yeah. Oh, they do. They look at your soul.
You're gigging all over the world. You've been to Edinburgh so many times. What's the name of the shows you've taken up there, apart from the one you told me, the Weapons of
Weapons of Laugh Destruction.
Is that the only one you took? Was that the only one?
I did 3 storytelling shows. Farewell to the Tooth Fairy. Because remember how innocent I was. I believe in the parable. An audience with Lynne Ruth Miller, because when you do an Edinburgh show, you want to get an A. You want to be in the A. And the other one was The Other Side of the Mirror. I figured the hell with it. And it has a picture of a cat looking in a mirror and seeing a lion. The Other Side of the Mirror. Those are storytelling shows. And then I started with the comedy. What did I call it? I forget what I called it. I always make up titles. But then I have cabarets. I did Aging is Amazing. Approaching 80. That was 6 years ago. Approaching 80, which I now call 80. Approaching 80. Not Dead Yet. Get a Grip. I Love Men. And now I'm working on I've Got Plans. And I'm hoping to get arts funding for that. Oh, and then my comedy shows, which is This Is Your Future. And I've taken that to Melbourne as well, all over the world. And then the other comedy show is I Never Said I Was Nice. That's the one I'm working on that I'm going to do with Angel.
Right. So one is you've got your promoting at the moment is I Never Said I Was Nice.
I Never Said I Was Nice is the new one.
That's the new one. That's the one you're
and
taking
I'm interested in how I'm going to do it because I'm very taken with, I think, what was it called? Nanette?
Nanette, yes. Yeah, with
Hannah Gadsby.
Hannah Gadsby, that's right.
I watched that, and the first thing I said was, you have to have a hell of a big following to do that kind of show and get a response with something that is not funny. Because none of it is funny. They're little quips. But, I mean, you've heard me do comedy. I want you to laugh. Yeah. And at the end, what she doesn't get is she's not talking just about lesbians. She's talking about every marginalized person. Every marginalized person. If you're Irish and you come to America, they think you're going to be a policeman. If you're Polish, they think you're going to be stupid. Every marginalized human being, every black person, no matter what we say, they are marginalized. They are marginalized. They don't get the pay for the same amount of work, neither do women. Every marginalized person. Every time you do comedy that denigrates yourself, you begin to believe it. And when she was talking about how she said it was a man that raped me, it was a man that's true, but that's because men had the power. I don't think men have the power anymore. I think it's diluted. I don't believe I'm a feminist. I think I'm a humanist. Because I think that the way the world is going, we're abusing men. I'm sorry, I think we're abusing men. Because there are tons and tons and tons of nice guys. They aren't all Harvey Weinstein. And they're really nice guys, and they don't know what to say. They don't know what to act. They don't. You're married already. You're lucky. You had to go out in the dating pool now. You don't know. What am I going to put on Tinder? My dick isn't looking too good today. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's a terrible loss. It's a terrible loss. I did it again, of course, because I love making jokes. So I was in the Tube, and this really lovely white middle class, I'm assuming middle class, he was in a suit, got up and gave me a seat. And then as he was going for another seat, a young woman came, and he gave her the seat. And I said, it isn't easy being a man, is it? I said, but you deserve it. It's all your fault.
Yeah.
He laughed, thank God. Yeah. He could have hit me on the head with his own. You deserve it. But, and so it's easy for me. It's comedy gold, but it's wrong because we're all in this soup together, and we've made this society that has depersonalized everyone. We've made it.
Yeah. Do you think that they're making everybody a monster?
That's right.
Like, it's like, oh, you're. I mean, even it's like, oh, everyone is seen, but everyone is pointed out their failings and highlighted, is brought into the light. Go, why am I being shamed? It's like that's Catholicism all over again, or
that's right.
Judaism.
Oh no, Catholicism worse.
Yeah,
just our mother shamed us. No, absolutely, and it's more than that. And then you go on Facebook and you say, oh, these people are having all this good time, and oh my, I'll give you another example. I've been trying to get to the stand forever. Last time I was there, I wiped it up, and they will not book me. 85-year-old woman, they will not. And I was just overwhelmed. And then I thought, no, this is the game you play. This is the way it is. This is you're on the team and your team is practiced and it won because some guy started sneezing when the other guy got the ball. This is the game. Yes. This is the game.
It's all a game. Got to just play it as best you can. Lynne Ruth Miller, thank you so much for your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you.
I'm going to edit some of that out.
I'm going to edit every little bit. Look, it takes me hours. But Lynne Ruth Miller, thank you so much for coming on the show. And where can we come see you? Where can we find you? What's the name of your blog?
You can find me on my website. I know December 12th I'm at Top Secret. This weekend I'm at the boat show.
Are you doing fringes this year as well?
I don't do it anymore.
Right.
Don't get me started on the fringe or we'll never get out of here.
You're right.
I don't like what they're doing to young talent. I'm very angry. They've raised the price so much that it's a festival for rich kids. Rich kids and people who have made it, and that's wrong. That's totally wrong. For you, the just beginning comedy, trying to just see how you do, to have to spend $2,000 and $3,000 just to get into that fucking book and get PR and do your posters and then lose $2,000 for what? For what? So I get very angry. And then you have to get digs, and if you're not willing to sleep under the bathtub in your friend's kitchen, you have to pay 3 times as much because the people in Edinburgh triple the rent then, which is unconscionable. Don't get me started. I gotta change clothes.
So we can. So your website is what, and we can.
www.lynnruthmiller.com.
And that's your blog there as well.
No, my blog. Some of the movies, some of the stuff is on. It's not as up to date as it should be, because I'm going to Germany the 5th to the 10th. Yeah. I'm doing, and then I'm going to Sweden for International Women's Day on March 8th.
Great, nice.
And Barcelona on March 15th. It's been a good year. Yeah. This has been an even better year than my 85th. Great. But I've got to send this woman a note.
Right. Lynne, thank you so much. It's been great.
It was my pleasure.
Brilliant.
I just thank you. And I hope it gave you what you needed.
Absolutely. And that was episode 66 with Lynne Ruth Miller. I hope you enjoyed that one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed recording it and editing it back, and made me laugh out loud a few times. I'll go and see her live. If she's ever on a bill somewhere, she's in Top Secret, she's all around the place. You will see her gigging all around London, all over the world actually. So go check her out. Very, very funny. And the person we mentioned on the podcast was Chris Kent. He is the next guest on this podcast, which is episode 67, which is quite a coincidence that we mentioned him on the podcast. He is the next guest. He's very, very funny. He started at exactly the same time as I did in Cork years ago, and he kept going, and he is absolutely cracking. I saw him for the Leicester Square Theatre, and he was there for the Glasgow International Comedy Festival. He was absolutely brilliant. He was just such a slow, metronomic delivery. It was hypnotic. He was brilliant. Very, very funny guy. He is episode 67. That is the next podcast. That is at the end of November, and that's the last Wednesday of that month, a Wednesday of November. I'm not sure what date it is, but you've got a calendar, the last Wednesday of that month. Now, if you want to subscribe to this podcast, you can. Just go to Patreon. We're there. Type in The Comedy Defect Podcast. You can donate as much as you want. If you want to donate to the podcast, you can donate as little as £1 or as much as you want. Maybe buy me a coffee if that's what you wanted me to do, or buy me a pint, whatever you feel would be appropriate. Or, if you see me like at a gig sometime, just give me a $5, place it into my hand. I've had that happen a few times. It's very nice. It's very much appreciated. I'm going to keep doing this because I enjoy doing it. I might even do just some podcasts, which I'm just going to be talking. I'm just going to be just riffing and see what comes up and see what happens. We'll see where that goes. Because I don't know about you, right? I don't know about you, if this is true for you. For the last few years, I don't know, up to this age, I was building things up in my head too much and make things into a massive thing that was a mountain I just could not climb. And I'm starting to get over that. And it's great. Just don't think about it anymore. Just go do it. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect, because it's a lie. It's never going to be perfect. You just got to do what you can do. Keep chipping away. Do what you can do. Otherwise, you're just going to get stuck and you'll be frozen in a more or less a catatonic state, annoyed at yourself as well. And that is just no good for anyone. Just go for it and do it. Doesn't matter if it's crap. Just do it. Just go ahead. I don't know. Maybe that's my positivity speech for this episode. But just try it. Just fuck, it doesn't matter. Throw it away. Just do it and bin it. Do it again and then do it better. Do it again, fail and fail again. Just do it. Maybe this is what this podcast is. Just an exercise in failing. Let's see how it goes. But if you want to donate to this podcast, you can show me that it's not an episode of failing. It's an episode of winning. And if you're enjoying it, whatever. Look, I'm on Twitter. The Twitter handle for this podcast is @TheComedyDefect. You can follow me @WinterDominus. And you can find all my gig dates on the internet under www.winterdominus.co.uk. All my live stand-up gig dates are there. Tonight, which is what date are we on? It is the 25th of the 10th. I am in Ardnall, I don't know how you say it. Ardnall Jailhouse is where I am tonight. I'm closing that gig. It's an interesting gig. The audience think that they're funnier than the comedians. So let's see what happens. But you can follow this podcast, as I say, on Twitter. We're there at The Comedy Defect. Follow me at Winter Dominus on my Instagram as well. Winter Dominus, at Winter Dominus. That's me. Guys, this episode was absolutely fun to record and edit. I hope you enjoyed it. I say tune in next month for Chris Kent, an amazing comedian. He's so hypnotic and metronomic, as I said. He's brilliant. But I had him at my gig about a year ago. He's cracking. So go check him out. Another fellow Cork man. Brilliant. I'm not biased in any way. So guys, go check this out. So that's it. That's it for this episode. Okay, right. We'll see you next month.